Hey there, welcome to my channel. This is ernieREADS, and today I want to talk to you about my 2018 reading goals. So for the year of 2018, I have 8 reading goals that I'd like to accomplish within the year. Most of these are monthly goals that I will keep track of. So let's jump in. So the first goal is to tackle my TBR shelf. So as I'm sure a lot of you can relate to, I tend to buy a lot of books that end up sitting on my shelf, and I don't really get around to reading them. So this goal is an attempt to tackle those books that I have not read. And so my goal for the month, for each month, is to have at least 50% of the books that I've read within that month come from books that I already own. So whether it's a physical book or audio book, I'm okay with either, but I'd like at least half of the books that I'm reading to be from books that I already own. The second goal that I have for 2018 is that I want to participate in at least one readathon each month. So for January, it's the end of January now, but I've already participated in the winter biannual bibliothon, readathon. And so continuing on into the rest of the months for the year, I'd like to participate in at least one readathon each month. The third goal that I have for myself is last year I kind of participated in the 2017 Book Riot's Read Harder Challenge, but I didn't really keep track of the books that I had read, and I kind of fell off the tracks at the end of the year. But this year I want to keep a record of all 24 challenges and all the books that I'm reading that fit into those challenges. So the goal that I have, breaking it down each month, would be to have 2 books read within those 24 challenges per month. And the fourth goal of mine is to read at least one book from either an author who identifies as LGBT within that community, or a book with a preferably main character who identifies within the LGBT community or group. So I'm including nonfiction, graphic novels, fiction, basically anything that just has that representation. So if you have any recommendations. The fifth goal for 2018 is to read at least 2 classics per month. I don't have a hard definition for classics. Anything published before like 1960, around that time, anything before that that's well recognized, I think I'll include that as a classic. And for me, that can be a play, a collection of poetry. I don't care about the size of them necessarily. I know there's some larger classics that I'd like to read, like Anna Karenina or War and Peace. But there's also some smaller ones that I'd like to read. So just like as some examples to show you some smaller ones. So this play, Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. I'm surprised I have not read this yet. I've read The Crucible, but not this. Hamlet. I think the only Shakespeare play that I've ever read, and this was because I had to read it in high school, was Much Ado About Nothing. And I tend to collect a lot of classics. I just like the way they look. This, for example, is gorgeous to me, and it's small and inviting, and I feel like I should pick it up. So I collect a lot of them, but I don't actually read them. So this goal is trying to help me, 1, read classics, but 2, going back to the first goal, to read more from my TBR shelf. Now the 6th goal that I have for myself in 2018 is to participate in the book club on Goodreads that Emma Watson created, the Our Shared Self book club. So it's basically a feminist book club, so a book about feminist topics, feminist ideas from feminist authors, etc. And I graduated with an undergrad degree in women's and gender studies. So I've always been interested in this book club, but I've never actually actively participated in it. Some of the books that Emma Watson or the group has chosen I have read before, but most of them I have not. So this year, going into 2018, I want to actively participate in the book club, in the discussion, and in reading the book. Now I know for this month, it is actually for the months of January and February, the book. It's Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. So I've actually already read it. I listened to the audiobook of it. So this will count for January and February, but just going forward, I'd like to participate in the upcoming books, but also to participate in the discussion on Goodreads, to just interact with people in talking about the book. The 7th goal that I have for myself is to just keep track of the books that I'm reading, and the book statistics. So for me, what I want to do is keep track of how many pages I've read each month, how many books I read, obviously, what year the books that I'm reading were published, if I listened to them mostly on an audiobook or if I read them in a physical form. I have a combined commute to and from work that is about an hour and a half, sometimes less depending on traffic, but that gives me ample time to listen to audiobooks in the car while I'm driving, especially on double speed, so I'm able to get through a lot more books by audiobook than I may be able to get to in a physical format. So I'd like to keep track of if most everything in the month is coming from audiobook or if it's 50-50, just to see how that plays out. And I also want to keep track of the ratings, which I can do in the monthly wrap-ups. Alright, and the 8th and final goal that I have for myself for 2018 is to read at least one larger book each month. And so for me, that is going to be a book that is 500 pages or more, I've decided. So there are plenty of books on my shelf that are sitting there and have been sitting there because they are so large and so daunting in size, and I just don't pick them up because I'm intimidated by the length of them. So this goal makes it, hopefully, a little more accessible to me, to where I just have to pick one book per month and dedicate myself to reading that one particular larger book in that month. So this month, for example, I picked up Little Women. I'm in a book club with a few of my friends, and this was actually the book that they had already chosen, so it fit perfectly into this. This edition of it, the print is a little bit larger, but this one ended up being, I think, around 777 pages, so it was kind of daunting going into it, but in the future months, I'd like to continue that and just picking up at least one book that is larger than ones that I would normally have read, so over 500 pages. And so those are my 8 reading goals for the year of 2018. A bonus goal of mine, beyond all of that, is also to actively upload and participate in the BookTube community, because I really do love reading and I love books and I love interacting with people and talking about books and the stories we are reading and loving and or hating and disliking or whatever it is. I just want to be a part of that, and so that is an ongoing goal of mine as well, to participate in this wonderful BookTube community. So should have a monthly wrap-up coming soon with the books that I have read throughout the month of January. And if you guys want to share your reading goals for the year too, feel free to comment down below and let's have a discussion.